Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Hit the Pacecar post Bowman Gray Stadium. And of course, I'm joined by my co hosts Cory and Tyler, as I am every week. Of course, we're at a kind of a weird time starting this week's edition of Hit the Pacecar because of everything that happened with Bowman Gray Stadium. But usually, we'll be live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, but we will be live at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesdays until March 3rd. And we had a very crazy weekend at Snowman Gray Stadium and a very emotional victory from one Ryan Preece. And we'll get to all that in a little bit. But first, I'm going to send it over to Tyler. Tyler, how are we doing this? How are we doing today? The Patriots are going to the Super Bowl. I think I told you earlier in the week, I want you to cry. I want you to cry because the Steelers can't lose the lead. We need to be, I'm okay with being tied. You can't have 7 Super Bowls.
Sorry, man. It's time. It's time for us to prove that it's not Brady, that it wasn't Bill, that it is Robert Kraft, the king of them all.
I want to,
Steelers.
might have to
Sorry.
might have to go to whatever massage parlor he's going to. But Cory, the Cardinals, man, you got to coach. You got to coach. The Suns are doing well. Suns look good.
Hey, we can talk about basketball all day long. I'll just skip the football conversation for now. Happy we got a coach. When's the Super Bowl? I don't care. Let's talk NASCAR.
Yeah, let's get to some NASCAR chatter here for the day. My Steelers didn't really do much this year. I still know what my future. We're the Pittsburgh Packers. That's what we are. We're hiring old Green Bay Packers coaches, Mike McCarthy, Big Mike McCarthy, and then of course Aaron Rodgers looks like he's coming back for us. So I don't know if I really want to talk football right now either. But let's get to some NASCAR chatter. My pick is the Seahawks, by the way. Let's get to some NASCAR chatter for today, and let's start with the weekend rundown where we go through the events from the past weekend. That's how we'll start every show if there is a race in the previous weekend. And other than next week, we will be seeing racing every single weekend. But this weekend, it was only Bowman Gray Stadium, the Clash for the Cup Series. So only one race to really chatter about here today. But there was definitely some interesting things that happened within the last week, starting with that snow delay. We had a very long snow delay. The Clash was supposed to be over the weekend, ended up getting moved to Monday. Then it got moved to Wednesday when NASCAR realized that was just not going to be possible to race on Monday. They got helping hands from Todd Gilliland and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and the Winston-Salem community to come down and help clear out the stands. That way fans can come to the track. They got the roads clear as best they could to get fans in the stands. And I really think NASCAR did the best they could with the situation that they were given. I also feel like they didn't really have any sort of plan going into it, which isn't really a surprise. But even if they did have a plan, I don't know if there's a better plan they really could have come up with. And they really did the best they could, I think. Tyler, what were your thoughts on the way NASCAR handled everything with the snow? We'll talk about the wet weather tires in a moment, but what did you think about everything with the snow and how NASCAR handled the back-to-back winter storms and racing on Wednesday for the Clash?
I think they handled it the best they could. I mean, snow is not something you can really plan for in NASCAR. It's not something they can get ready for. So, I mean, the worst thing that could have happened, and they still managed to get a race off. I mean, yeah, it was on Wednesday. It was way further into the week than we all wanted, but thankfully we have the Super Bowl this weekend, which gave us a break in between Daytona and gave them a chance to throw it on a Wednesday. I mean, there's not many options they had, but they pulled it off, and I liked it. It was a good race.
Yeah, I think it was really the best they could have done in the situation. I think we might have differing opinions on if it was a good race, but I hear a lot of different opinions if it was a good race, and we will talk about that here in a little bit. But I do want to still talk about this snow in the Snowman Gray Stadium, if you will, in Winston-Salem. Cory, how did you feel about how the way NASCAR handled everything when it came to the snow and the ice and everything we saw at Bowman Gray?
I think you both said it that we handled it, or they handled it the best they possibly could. Honestly, they really didn't have any other option. Obviously, safety is the number one priority. Like the roads were hazardous. It took them forever to get all the snow off the seats and the track, and then Wednesday, if they didn't run it when it did, it snowed an hour or so after. So they kind of had no other choices, and on the fly, they had to make decisions, and they made the right decisions. So I respect how it went down. I think they had fans' interest in mind the entire time while
Yeah,
also
I agree.
prioritizing safety. So I I think they handled it the only way they could and made all the right decisions, even though it looked sloppy. They let people know on Monday, hey, it's Wednesday, right? Like they did it as quick as they could, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really think they did the best they could with the cards they were dealt. And it's NASCAR, man. You gotta have to deal with weather. Like it's just bound to happen. First, we couldn't get 1 week without having to deal with weather, and we had the clash moved all the way to Wednesday. It's just how it is sometimes. And I am curious if, and Tyler was saying this earlier before we went live here, that I'm curious if there was a different, if this was in between, if there wasn't no bye week next week. Obviously it's the Super Bowl this weekend, but what if we were going to like Atlanta this weekend or something? Would they have still done the race, or would it gotten canceled altogether? Would it gotten rescheduled? Because racing on Wednesday is very close to the next weekend, because a lot of those teams are going to be there racing at the racetrack with the teams on Wednesday racing, and then a lot of, not everybody, but a lot of those personnel would end up moving to Atlanta on Thursday, so they don't really get much of a break. I mean, I guess it is possible for sure, but I'm very curious if the show would have went on if this wasn't a bye week, essentially it being Super Bowl week. But I guess we won't know. And I personally really doubt they'll go to Bowman Gray next season. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. How did you feel about the snow delay, it getting delayed to Wednesday? Do you think NASCAR did all the right things and everything they could to get the best experience for the fans, and at the same time able to put on the show? Let me know in the comments. One thing that I think, and and it's going to relate to this next topic. One thing I feel like they did mess up with in the snow, it was just something they looked past, was all the snow and ice behind the walls and the safer barriers, because that caused weepers that we had on the racetrack, which ended up being a big thing throughout the LCQ. And we had even more slipping and sliding once we switched over to the wet weather tires. And at this point, it's all weather tires, pretty much what we saw with the wet weather tires from Goodyear, them racing in the sleet and snow and rain. I've never seen it before. Seemed like a lot of the drivers were actually down for it, which was surprising, but it is an exhibition race. And I guess I want to get Cory and Tyler's thoughts on this when it comes to the wet weather tires. And they also caused a lot of wrecks, which we'll get to that part of this discussion. But Cory, how did you feel about the wet weather tires? Do you think it was a good call? How did you feel about them?
I think it proved that Goodyear's good at their job,
Oh, for
right?
sure.
Like wet weather, sleet weather, it worked in all. But I mean, I was happy with it. I think it was either that or they stop racing, right? If your options are that,
Yeah.
honestly, I think it was Connor Zilic that said in an interview afterwards that they should have started racing earlier, and I mean, I know he has good wet weather experience, but
Mhm.
like it created something new, something different, and I really appreciated it. It was interesting to watch. Obviously, it was very messy, created a lot of accidents, and I think if the same scenario happened mid-season, they wouldn't have had as many accidents, but they haven't raced in months. So the adrenaline, the tempers, the everything's sparking off at once, and it created honestly disgusting content for some, but honestly just a lot of adrenaline and fun racing for an exhibition is what I'd say.
Yeah, it was definitely entertaining. I definitely won't say like whether I think the race is good or not. You'll have to find out later. But entertainment, I definitely found the racing. I'm not. I found the events entertaining. I definitely found it entertaining. I was definitely glued to my seat and watching the race for sure. And I think it was the only way we were going to be able to get the race in. Period. I'd say probably would have ended early, and I think at that point they probably would have pulled the plug on it just because of all the work they've already had to do. And I know Cory saw the Jeff Gluck video after the race. They were getting snow at the racetrack after the race. I don't know how many inches they ended up getting last night when it came to that. I'm not exactly sure, but who knows if the race would have ever happened, if would have ever went through if they didn't put the wet weather or the all weather tires on there. Tyler, how did you feel about the all weather tires?
I mean, like you said, I don't think they had much of a choice, but I enjoyed it personally. I mean, it was nice to see NASCAR take a leap. We all sit back every weekend going, man, I wish we could have seen this happen. I wish they would have done this. Or I wish they'd try something every once in a while. Man, they did it. They tried it. They did what we've always asked them to do. And the nice part was, it was an expedition race, so nobody had to lose any points. Nobody had to risk anything. We got to see some cool things that we don't get to see. Cool to see those wet weather tires work. I mean, we've all sat back. They've had them, what, 3 years now?
At least.
And we've seen them,
but yeah.
what, twice we've seen them. And each time we've seen them, it's kind of been like, oh, this is kind of a shit show. So at least last night they were working. People were able to find a groove and get some grip. And, you know, I mean, they did their job. So, hell, I enjoyed it. They finally used them.
Hey, honestly, what's a better time to try them out than an exhibition race?
What's a better time than to go full throttle with it and actually just let them free range? Screw it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's an exhibition race, and a lot of the drivers seemed like they were down for it, and that's the main reason why I was okay with it. And like you were just saying there, Tyler, we haven't really seen these wet weather tires on short tracks very often. I think we saw it at New Hampshire, and then Martinsville was the other one. I don't remember correctly. Was it Martinsville? Yeah, Martinsville. Yeah, but we've seen very limited exposure to these tires, and I don't know if we'll necessarily see this exact situation where it's raining and sleeting and snowing and stuff like that. We haven't really faced this sort of situation, but now we know that we can technically race in this sort of in these sort of conditions. I do think drivers need to get better at racing in these sort of conditions, and that's another reason why I didn't mind it too much, because some drivers are going to have more success. Like we saw Shane was electric. Like if we had rain and snow the rest of the race, Shane very possibly could have won. Tyler, you want something to say about that?
I was about to say, you've seen every driver that every driver that's been able to drive on dirt, that's been able to drive any type of short track racing, all of that shined last night. Anybody that struggled with any type of short track racing in any capacity was to the back of the pack within a matter of minutes. And that was cool to see, personally.
Yeah, really, it did end up becoming a separator. I would say, I'd say it definitely became a separator between the really good drivers on that sort of style of racing and that sort of track type, and the drivers that aren't necessarily strong at short tracks or have experience in the rain or aren't necessarily a dirt racer, so don't have necessarily the greatest car control. So you saw certain drivers cream up to the top. Like you had Larson, who was strong throughout most of the race, obviously didn't finish the way that he probably deserved. Shane had a great race, didn't get the finish he deserved. Zilich, I was very impressed. That's why I'm wearing all my Zilich shit. I'm wearing my 87 hat, Connor Zilich shirt. Like the Rook looked like a vet out there. Like I was very impressed with him. Ryan Preece raced well. How about fucking Daniel Suarez? Suarez had a fantastic race. I was just very impressed with some drivers able to stand out. But with the pros comes the cons. And I do agree the wrecks were fairly exciting, but there was a certain point, there was like a 20 lap run. I think it was around lap 140 to 160. That run right there, I have never been, well, actually, no, there's definitely been worse moments as a NASCAR fan, but that was one of my worst watching moments as a race fan. I'm like, this is embarrassing. If anybody that's watching is not a NASCAR super fan, this is embarrassing, because it was just, I think they put it on Twitter. There was like 5 cautions in like 9 laps or something like that. It was just ridiculous. We had the hosts of our wreck. We had Zilich and Shane both wreck. Denny Hamlin had a hell of a day. He was involved in almost every wreck and still managed to get a top 5. Like it was insane. It was completely insane. And I want to get Cory and Tyler's thoughts on the wrecks that ended up being caused because of all this. I feel like they feels somewhat similar to me, but also look at it from a different perspective. And I guess I'll start with Tyler on this one. How did you feel about the wrecks and everything that happened when it came to the wet weather tires and that like 20-30 lap span that I was referencing?
I think NASCAR just needed to relax a little bit. I think they got whoever was on the trigger for that last night was a little trigger happy. Somebody needed to explain to them, hey, this is short track. It's not going to take them long to get flipped back around and back on the track. I don't think they needed to call most of them. I think most of them, they could have easily gotten rolling and not had a problem. I mean, these guys are doing 50 miles an hour max. So, like, give them a minute. Like, give them a second to get rolling. I know when they get tangled up, it's hard to get them rolling again, but whatever. But, like, figure it out. They'll figure it out like the Gibbs situation. I mean, Gibbs got sideways completely almost backwards, and because of it being 50 miles an hour, they were able to just shove through him until homeboy got straightened back out. Like, that's what short track racing is. And whoever was on the button last night was not informed on when to call it, I feel like they were not taught, hey, it's short track, they have time. They were pulling it like it's Talladega and we're doing 200 miles an hour coming at you. Like, no, these guys got time. They had time to not pull the trigger so much. Don't get me wrong, like, maybe 2 or 3 of those cautions should have been called, but most of them, people were just spinning around. Give them a second.
Yeah, the guy that was on the trigger for the cautions, I felt like they were really inconsistent because especially earlier in the night, and that may have been why they were calling such immediate cautions in the main event. Because I think I remember in the LCQ there was a couple of times where we had drivers spin out and then no caution came out. A couple of times, I think, in the LCQ, if I remember correctly. And I think that's probably why they overcompensated. But just the inconsistency, it's something that always happens, especially at short tracks and super speedways, too. Like sometimes we'll see one car spin out at super speedway, no caution. And then the next time we'll see a car spin out and it's a caution. So it's just a consistency thing. I think that was the big problem with the cautions because I didn't see too much of a problem with any of the cautions that I saw called, but I do at the same time agree with you that they could have gotten back going. I think if they're just consistent one way or the other, I don't think that will be a problem for many people as long as they're consistent one way or the other. But Cory, how did you feel about the wrecks and the wet weather potentially causing some of those wrecks? And how do you feel about that, like 20? Because I feel like the race ended really well. I think the race ending was great, but the 20-30 lap span was kind of my issue.
I disagree with talking about the guy pushing the button as much as you guys disagree or say it, like brought it up.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it, I didn't get a chance to actually watch the last chance qualifier. I got to see like the last 5 or 6 or the last 10 or so laps because I was driving home with the time of it all. But the race itself, like, I think a lot of it just came down to the rain and to the sleet. Like, the track itself, it was 14-second laps in best conditions.
Yeah.
And then in worst conditions, it was like 18 or 19 seconds.
Yeah.
So, give or take where the spin happened in the field and where the leader was, they had maybe a couple seconds to make a decision or caution or not. And with it being sleet, dude, imagine if they didn't call it and someone didn't give anybody any room and they just force them to hit somebody at, I mean, it's still 50, but they're still humans. You know what I mean? Not saying you guys are saying anything different than that. I'm just saying with the sleet, the conditions, the rain, no one was giving anybody room. They were all sliding into each other. Like, they had no choice, in my opinion. It was just the drivers being more lax, but it's an exhibition. They're not going to do that. It's just, I'm trying to win this thing, right? So, I don't know. I'm not that big on the caution and how consistency. I think they were in a situation where it was lose-lose. These guys, and then you also ran into the situation where Larson and Hendrick Motorsports didn't fill up their cars.
Yeah.
Like, there were a couple cautions that weren't a wreck because they ran out of gas on the track.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. The cautions to me, I mean, there were too many. That 20 lap window was ridiculous. But the consistency of the calls and all that stuff, I throw that out the window for that one. They were forced in a crappy situation. But with the wrecks and everything that happened, it was entertaining because you had 100 laps of actual racing, And then kind of at the 100 lap mark is when the rain hit and the sleet hit, and then it became a shit show. But I'm here for it because you got two different types of racing. Obviously, I think we all prefer the first one with a little taste of the second 100 laps. But in the end, for people who haven't watched racing in 3 months, we got kind of what we like to see. You know what I mean?
No, I hear what you're saying for sure. And like I said, I don't think I had too many problems necessarily with in particular cautions being called or not called. It's just for me, it's the inconsistency. I personally felt like they were inconsistent. Cory feels differently, and I think we all feel a little bit different about this subject in particular, which is cool. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. What did you think about the incidents, the wet weather tires, and the cautions that we had throughout the race? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. One thing I did want to bring up real quickly too is the race unfortunately ended up ending on Fox Sports 2 and 50 I think it was a 50-mile race, and it took them a long time to end up finishing. It was just, I think that was another thing I saw a lot of people upset about. But it is what it is. The Masked Singer, I guess, trumps NASCAR. Let's move on to Ryan Preece, because Ryan Preece finally got that first victory, and I was pumped for him, driving that number 60 Coca-Cola Ford for RFK Racing. He's a racer's racer. He has a lot of passion for the sport. He's one of the few racers, I'd say, over the last number of years that's gotten to where he's at because of pure skill. I think that's a rarity at this point. Like, you need some sort of major sponsorship help. And Ryan Preece has never really had any big time personal sponsors or anything. And it seemed like a couple of years ago, once he was going to be out at Haas, I personally thought he was done, and I didn't have anything against it. I was like, he hasn't really performed. He's probably a good enough driver to be in the Cup Series, but there's a lot of drivers that are good enough to be in the Cup Series that aren't in the Cup Series. And I thought Ryan Preece was just going to be another one of those guys potentially. And then Brad Kay took a big shot on him, and he raced his ass off last year. Him and Busher, I'd say, were the best drivers at RFK last season. And he comes into this season with the bang, winning the Clash. One of three drivers to get their first career win in an exhibition race, that being Jeff Gordon, Denny Hamlin, and now Ryan Preece. I just love the guy. He has a pure passion for the sport, a modified racer from New England. I think he's from Connecticut. Just really impressed by the guy and the passion that he showed in that interview and the heart that he showed in that interview. That's how you garner a lot of fans. I think there was definitely some people that had a problem with him saying fuck and cussing. I don't give a shit. He showed his passion. He put his heart on his sleeve, and I loved it. In a real personal, emotional moment. Look like he was about to break. He kind of had like a small breakdown in front of the camera. He just couldn't believe it. He had no, like, he just didn't understand it at that moment. I felt like, and it was just a real awesome moment. And I'm extremely happy for Ryan Preece. Cory, how did you feel about this? I'm sure you probably saw his interview once he got out of the car and everything. How did you feel about the Ryan Preece victory and his interview and celebration?
As a fan, I don't feel any way about Ryan Preece.
Yeah.
Him winning like going into it, right? And watching that race and seeing someone different up front, seeing someone who hasn't won a race up front, seeing those final laps and actually the announcers getting excited for him was awesome. Like, it was good to see. And then the emotion he showed and how much that race meant to him, even though it was an exhibition, it wasn't like, it doesn't statistically count towards like a win in his career other than it being the Clash, right? And it still meant the world to him in that moment. And then for me, him winning didn't mean much at the time, but then, like, honestly thinking about it for a day, like, that race wasn't for points. That race to some people was for the biff. Like, seeing that 60
For sure.
back in victory lane after what happened this offseason, it's emotional, especially being with Roush. You know what I mean? That win affected NASCAR on a lot of different levels, even though it was just the Clash. And Preece getting his first victory. It was good to see that 60 in victory lane, and a day later, I'm ecstatic and so happy for Ryan Preece and RFK and Roush, and you know, it was just a good win. I'm happy.
Yeah, that's another little caveat to it as well. Because I remember when he was in his interview, and I look over his shoulder, and you can just see the little Greg Biffle sticker right above his window, and it was all the whole weekend was for the Biff. Really, they had the big logo in the middle, not in the middle, but it was on the field at Bowman Gray Stadium with all the other logos that were there. Just very cool to see the number 60 back in victory lane. Greg Biffle, I would say, was the primary guy that made that number famous for Roush in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series at that time, known as the Busch series. Of course, Carl Edwards and a number of other guys drove that number 60, but Greg Biffle was able to win a championship in that number 60, and to see him being Ryan Preece in victory lane, celebrating like that, and it also being a moment for probably a big moment for the Biffle fans. If the Biffle fans were tuning into that, it's probably a big moment for them as well. Tyler, how did you feel about the whole celebration and win for Ryan Preece?
Awesome to see, man. You haven't seen a driver get out of their car and have that much emotion in a long time. True, raw emotion. That man needed that win to solidify putting his house up on a lien, to solidify giving up his whole life to still be doing this. Like, that man's been given a lot, and that's what NASCAR is about. Expedition race or not, it does not matter. He won, and that's what matters. And
Yeah,
he's gonna have a cup win on it. Like, that's he got that car into victory lane against Kyle Larson, against Denny Hamlin, against everybody else. They were all out there. They were all in their cars. They were all on that same field. So it made no difference. Made no difference. A win is a win to him, and that's life changing, man. That's the confidence that man's gonna need to actually be up there with them and not second guess his moves or second guess what he's trying to do or whatever it is. I think he deserved it more than anything. I think it brings a lot more fans into the.
looks like we might have lost Tyler there for a second. But yeah, it brings a lot more fans into it. And I think Ryan Preece he's a driver that a lot of people can get behind. I feel like he just has a pure passion for the sport, and I'm hoping that more people realize how good of a driver he is. And I have some bold predictions laid out later. And one of my bold predictions involves Ryan Preece. Now, I don't know if it is a bold prediction anymore, because I think people are now realizing that he is a very talented race car driver and he had a very strong year last year, and I think he's going to have even a better year this year, Ryan Preece. And just got to be happy for Ryan Preece, a racer's racer, has a pure passion for the sport. We saw that on display with the interview. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. How did you feel about the Ryan Preece victory, his celebration, and everything involving his win at Bowman Gray Stadium? All right, before we finish up talking about the Clash, let's talk about the future of the Clash and what we think should happen with the Clash. We kind of talked about this a little bit last week, so we'll probably go through this pretty quickly. But now that we had a race at Bowman Gray Stadium for the Clash this past weekend, we can kind of talk about it a little bit more. And me personally, one thing I'll just say really quickly, I have seen some people say, oh, maybe Bowman Gray should get like a points race or something like that. No, Bowman Gray should not have a points race. Way too small of a racetrack, way too much chaos. I could maybe understand an ARCA race, maybe even a truck race, but no, I do not want to see a cup points race at Bowman Gray Stadium. That's just not at all what I would like to see. So I'll say that up front. And then for the future of the Clash, I've been one of those people that's like, hey, let's improve each of these local short track facilities and promote them essentially and improve the facility itself. That way more fans get in. That way more fans stay because the facility is better. But then everything that we saw this weekend and this week with the winter storms, most of these local short tracks that I personally would want them to go to are in very cold areas. Of course, there's a couple tracks like Five Flags. You got Kern County. I wish Irwindale was still around. I think they tore down Irwindale last year. So there really isn't a lot of great local short tracks that are in warm areas. Most of them are in the Northeast or in Virginia or the Carolinas, where it's fairly cold and tends to get a lot of snow and ice this time of the year. So I'm officially jumping on the bandwagon. I kind of started to jump on the bandwagon last week, but I'm officially on the bandwagon. I might even be the new captain of the bandwagon. I'm kidding. That's Dale Earnhardt Jr. But the Clash needs to go back to Daytona. It is what it is. The Clash needs to go back to Daytona, because I was also getting really pissed off about Mike Joy. He kept on saying, "Oh, speed weeks, a full week of racing," and it's like, bruh, it's 5 days of racing. It's not even a full week anymore. It's not even speed weeks anymore. It's speed days. Like, we need to bring the Clash back to Daytona. We need to bring back Daytona 500 testing. We need to bring back a bunch of stuff, recreate, bring back speed weeks as a whole, and put the Clash back at Daytona under the lights. And I'm going to send it to a guy that it probably feels the exact same way. Tyler, the Clash at Daytona.
100% bring back speed weeks, man. I don't even know why this is a question for anybody. If we're putting NASCAR back together, we're putting it back the way it needs to be. Let's go back to Daytona where we should be to begin with. That's the only place we can go. Unless you want to do the Clash at Phoenix, and nobody wants that.
Nope.
Absolutely nobody wants that. So let's not do that. Let's go back to Daytona where we belong. If you guys want to do some cool race in the middle of summer or whatever, that's fine with us. We have the All-Star race. We got other things we can do that at. We don't need to do that at the Clash. Speed weeks. So
Yeah, that's kind of the main reason I would want the Clash back there, because I just want speed weeks as a whole to come back. I remember when I was a kid, I'd wake up early as fuck in the morning and I turn on Speed Channel and they're just testing. They're just riding. It's all month of January. They're just like testing for the Daytona 500 at Daytona Beach. And the Indianapolis 500 still does that. They do the month of testing and preparing for their biggest race of the year. And I feel like NASCAR with the Cup Series should do the same thing and go back to full-fledged speed weeks and get back into the testing and build up the hype for the biggest race of the year, the Great American race. Because I feel like most people that are outside of our bubble, that are outside of the NASCAR bubble, forget the Daytona 500 is going to happen until right after the Super Bowl, because you most likely see some sort of ad for the Daytona 500 during the Super Bowl, or you see some sort of promotion for the Daytona 500 during the Super Bowl, and people are like, "Oh yeah, NASCAR exists. I forgot." But if you have Daytona 500 testing and you show it occasionally, maybe you have the Clash at Daytona, I think that gets more casuals in the know. And also, I think it's a good build-up, and it's cool. It's cool. I think NASCAR fans are a big fan of it, and I'm one of those people, even if I personally don't agree with it, and I personally do agree with this one, but even if I don't agree with it, whatever most of the fans want, that's kind of what I want, because I want everybody to be happy, and I want us to bring in new fans. Cory, how do you feel about the future of the Clash? You think they should come back to Bowman Gray next year, maybe go to a different track, or do you want to see it back at Daytona?
Man, I feel like I'm one of those people that always says two things can be said.
Yeah.
I fully agree that the Clash should go back to Daytona in the sense that the weather's better, and to a lot of people, the racing might be better, and it's nostalgic for a lot of people. Like, there's a lot of reasons why I like the Clash being there. And it's honestly, it's with the timing of the Super Bowl and everything, it's more for the casual to go, "Oh, NASCAR's coming back. I can put the race on," you know?
Yeah.
But then the other thing about it is that I think we shouldn't leave Bowman Gray and not go back. I think the All-Star race shouldn't be at Dover. I think
Agreed.
if they're gonna do anything like that, move it to a summer date or May, June, July, and then have the All-Star race bounce between these short tracks that we can fix up. Go back to Bowman Gray for the All-Star race. Go back to another short track somewhere else and revamp it, get it, upgrade it, and have all-star races at these small tracks that have communities that love racing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's my tidbit. I think the Clash should go to Daytona, but I also don't think we should leave Bowman Gray and leave them behind. Maybe rotate it, but like upgrade some small tracks and go see some new tracks for NASCAR to explore and get more of the local community involved,
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I would like for them to just make the Clash and the All-Star race better in general. So maybe that could be a way to do it. because that kind of fuses my idea a little bit, what I was thinking with the short tracks. I would love for them to improve all these facilities and promote these facilities and bring in new fans, because dirt racing is definitely having its moment in the sun right now, but local short track asphalt racing is dying out throughout most of the country. Like, you have tracks like Myrtle Beach and Irwindale closing down, and those are legendary local short tracks. Myrtle Beach closed down a couple of years ago. Irwindale closed down last year. So I would love for them to just improve on some of these local short tracks. So I would be down for that personally. I would also be down for, I definitely don't want the All-Star race at Dover. I think we talked about it before a while ago, but the only reason why I feel like they have Dover as the All-Star race is because they couldn't put Dover anywhere else on the schedule, and they don't want to lose Dover. They want to keep Dover on the schedule. I like Dover. Dover's a very different racetrack. I would love for it to continue to be on the schedule, but definitely not as the All-Star race, because I want the All-Star race to be more exciting, not less exciting. And that's kind of what we're getting this year. So we'll have to see what the future is for Bowman Gray and for the Clash. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about the future for Bowman Gray Stadium in NASCAR? And what do you think about the future for the Clash? Should it go back to Daytona? Let me know in the comments. Okay. Let's get to some of these news stories here. We have a couple of news stories that we want to go over that we've had happen over the last week. And one of these, this first one I would say is very cool. We have a legendary driver returning to NASCAR, and that is Dario Franchitti. Dario Franchitti is coming back to NASCAR to race in the Craftsman Truck Series at St. Petersburg, a track that he actually has some experience at. Some of you may know the story of Dario Franchitti. Raced over here in the Cup Series for a couple years, attempted with Chip Ganassi Racing. Honestly, just didn't really find the success that I think he was expecting and hoping for. And we saw a couple of drivers from the open wheel scene come over within a couple years span. Of course, you had Robbie Gordon, you had Tony Stewart, who anything he gets into, he seems to be the very best at. If you're watching NHRA, he's just Tony fucking Stewart. And then you saw, of course, like I said, Dario Franchitti. You saw Christian Fittipaldi. You saw Juan Pablo Montoya. I think Montoya had a good amount of success. I kind of wish he stayed in NASCAR, because I think he finally got his feet under him once he ended up leaving. But Dario Franchitti just couldn't figure it out. I feel like Franchitti just couldn't quite figure out the Cup cars. Had a lot of success in IndyCar, won an IndyCar Series championship, went back to IndyCar, ended up winning an Indianapolis 500, had a lot more success. Probably one of the, if I had to really think about it and make a list, I'd probably put him in the top 15, maybe even the top 10 greatest IndyCar drivers of all time. Ended up retiring early, and it seemed like a career-ending injury in 2013, wrecking in the Grand Prix of Houston. Had two spinal fractures plus a concussion. It seemed like his career was done. Over the last couple of years, he's been doing some amateur races, and a couple of weeks ago actually raced in the Dubai 24 Hours in a GT3 car. So he's beginning to make a comeback. So this truck race will actually be his second professional race over the last 13 years. So that's very cool to have a legend back in the sport, racing for Tricon Garage in the number one. I honestly don't know how well he's going to do. I don't know how good he's going to do. He honestly could be complete ass, but he also could be very competitive. We'll have to see what happens with that. But I'll send it to Cory here first. How do you feel about a legendary driver of Franchitti's status coming back to just a one-off in trucks? Maybe it's more races, but right now it just seems like a one-off at St. Pete.
It's a good story, man. I think it's awesome. I honestly, my big thing is I really hope he does well. Like,
Same.
just for the story and for himself. That's what I want to see. But yeah, no, it's a good story. I can't wait to see him on the track.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool to see Franchitti out there. It's going to be very cool. And I think Jensen Button's even rumored to potentially be in that St. Pete race as well. So that St. Pete race for the Truck Series could potentially be stacked. And now I kind of understand why, because I thought that was the most dumbest thing I've ever seen on a NASCAR schedule. Why the hell is is the Truck Series randomly going to St. Petersburg instead of Las Vegas? Like, why? I didn't understand it. I didn't understand it at all, but it's beginning to make a little bit more sense to me that they're trying to attract maybe some international drivers to come race at St. Pete, because none of the drivers in NASCAR have any experience at St. Pete. So this could be a really good opportunity for some of these international drivers to potentially put their name into a hat for NASCAR owners. But Tyler, how do you feel about Dario Franchitti being back in NASCAR?
It's always cool to see a legend like that cross into our sport, but my biggest thing is he's probably not going to do well.
No.
So like,
I don't think so.
yes, you have somebody come in and they bring in their fan base and their fan base watches the race, and yeah, you have all those pluses, right? But there could be a kid, I don't know, time, anybody, I don't care, put him in that car. Like anybody else. There's how many drivers that don't have a ride right now that could use some seat time? I don't know. It's just weird for me. I'm double-edged with it because you could always use the fans coming in, but at the same time, that's a seat that an up-and-coming driver can be in and get an experience in.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. It's a quality ride, and from what we know, Heim Time doesn't have any full-time ride this year. I assume he'll probably get a couple of starts with Tricon. It sounds like he's going to race a good amount of races for 2311 Racing in the Cup Series. And I think there is a lot of drivers that could that would not probably, but that would have more success than Dario Franchitti in that number one. But like you said, at the same time, I'm perfectly fine with it because it does bring in new fans, and then also it could potentially create some chatter amongst some of these international drivers. Like, what if Franchitti comes in here and has like a top 15 or even like a top 20, and Jenson Button comes in, has a top 15, top 20? They're going to go talk to their international driver friends, and maybe we have Daniel Ricciardo racing in a race. That's my dream. I would love to see Danny Rick race in a Cup race, but we can maybe see some more international drivers join in if some of these guys have success. And it's kind of been a mixed bag. Obviously, you had Shane Van Gisbergen come in here and win his first race, but then you've had some drivers have a whole bunch of struggles, and then you have some drivers that just get wrecked by Ricky Stenhouse throughout the whole entire race. So the international drivers have just had definitely some issues. Some of you that watched the Indy Road Course knew what I was talking about there. But some of these international drivers I feel like are either scared or don't want to come over. Like, it's the same deal with like Larson, for example. Like, Kyle Larson's a hell of a race car driver, but after his failure in the last Indianapolis 500, I think he's someone that would not want to go race in another series, at least for a while. And I think a lot of these international drivers don't want to go race in a different series because they know what they know and they don't want to feel uncomfortable, I guess, or look weak, I guess you could say. It's something that is a big part of the motorsports community. So I'm happy to see Franchitti get this opportunity, and we'll have to see how he does. Maybe Jenson Button's also going to be in the St. Pete race amongst maybe some other international drivers. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Dario Franchitti racing for Tricon Garage in the number one at St. Pete in the Truck Series later this month, actually? I think that race is later this month. All right, let's move on to our next news topic. And this is one that I think a lot of fans have been clamoring and wanting. Me personally, I'm a very mixed bag about it, but it sounds like that Jamie Little could potentially losing a couple of races as the lead play-by-play announcer for the Craftsman Truck Series on Fox and Fox Sports 1. Brent Stover, who worked for CBS for a number of years and I think has been working with Flow Racing and Fox a little bit over the last year or two. And then Eric Brennan has been a big part of Flow Racing over the last couple of years. I think he announced a couple of ARCA races last year on Fox Sports 1, and he's very good. I don't really know much about Brent Stover, but Eric Brennan, he has a bright future, I'd say. I think Eric Brennan's going to be commentating the O'Reilly or the Cup Series here in a couple of years. I think that highly of Eric Brennan. I think he's a great commentator. But the reason I'm mixed about this is because, first of all, Jamie Little's been a big part of our sport for such a long time. She was such a great pit road reporter, and she has struggled mightily in the booth, I would say. But at the same time, I have seen improvements. I have seen her improve over time. It's just, how long do you give somebody to get to the top of their game? Because she's definitely not even close to the top of her game in the broadcast booth, I would say. Cory, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about Jamie Little? And we don't know for sure. This is just the way the report was laid out. It seems like Jamie Little will be losing some races as the lead play-by-play commentator. I do want to make that clear. That hasn't been officially announced, but that's what it seems like with everything that we've seen. But Cory, how do you feel about this?
Man, I don't know how to feel about it. I think as NASCAR fans, we all like Jamie Little.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
especially like pit road reporting and all that stuff. And so we want her in the sport. It's good to have her in the sport, but I agree with what you said. Like, it's kind of rough on those truck races. Just it's a bad listening experience. You have a bunch of, you could make a highlight video of how many bad calls there are on the final lap
Oh, for
and
sure.
going to the checkered flag, and you're just like, that's really like the actual like live audio, you know? So on I see the reasoning for it. It sucks in a way, but I get it. I'm for it as a fan, but as a NASCAR fan that's been a fan of the sport for a while, it sucks to see it not work out. I mean, obviously she didn't lose her job the entire time. But I'm just saying, hopefully she figures it out, like you said, because NASCAR fans want her in the sport.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jamie Little. I would say, other than Dick Berggren, because Dick Berggren was a fantastic pit road reporter for a number of years for the Cup Series on Fox. Other than him, I would say Jamie Little is probably the best pit road reporter we've had this century. Like, she's amazing as a pit road reporter. She is completely fantastic on pit road, but in the booth, she's struggled, Tyler. It's just been a real struggle for Little in the booth.
It absolutely has been a struggle for her, but to me, I don't think it mattered. I mean, all us race fans kind of looked over that because, like you said, we absolutely
We
loved her on
love
pit
her.
road.
Yeah.
Love her. I mean, there's not a race fan you talk to that doesn't love Jamie Little. So I mean, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes it's a little rough up there. It's a little rough, but you could tell she's uncomfortable. Like, I don't know, maybe put her back where she belongs. Like, and pay her more for it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's bad to say, but she did great on pit road. There was nobody more you wanted interviewing on victory lane than Jamie Little. Like, she knew what questions to ask those guys when they got out of the car, how to bring the emotion out, like all of that. So I don't know. Maybe the booth's not her strong suit. Maybe she's like Jeff Gordon. Go do something
Yep.
better that you can do.
Yeah, I feel like everybody just kind of has to figure out what their role is, especially in TV. It's very difficult. Like, I'll use an example here is JJ Watt. I think JJ Watt was an okay analyst, not bad. He was pretty good, but in the booth, I think JJ Watt's fantastic. I think JJ Watt is fantastic for CBS, for the NFL. But as an analyst, he's okay. He's not bad. He definitely doesn't stand out, but he's a great commentator and he has very low experience. And Jeff Gordon's another example too. Jeff Gordon sucked in the booth. I'm not to be honest. Jeff Gordon was ass. He was not good in the booth, but that's not his role. And he figured out very quickly that wasn't his role. To be in the booth, he quickly figured out that he has to be on the business side, the ownership side of things, and now he's lined up to be the next owner of Hendrick Motorsports whenever Rick decides to hand it down to him. So you just really have to figure out your role. And am I willing to give Jamie Little another chance this season? Yeah, I am. I'm willing to continue to give her another chance because I love Jamie Little and she's been fantastic for the sport. And it seems like that's something that she personally really wants to do. It seems like she wants to be in the booth. But if she can't figure it out this year and continue to improve, I think you got to pull the plug on it. I hate to say that, and I would hate to lose it because that's one of the things I'm worried about too. Is if Fox go to Jamie and like, hey, we don't really want you in the booth anymore. We want you to just do pit road stuff. Then she's gonna be like, well, fuck you. I don't need to do that. I can go do something else somewhere else. I'll go back to doing the X Games. What's up, Tyler?
Sorry to cut you off, but could you imagine her joining the Amazon team? That would be so cool.
Oh yeah,
She'd do so good with the
That'd be
Amazon
elite.
team, dude.
That'd be elite. That would be elite.
That right there is where if Fox fumbles this, Amazon picks her up. Like, there's no way they don't.
Yeah, somebody's gonna pick her up if something happens for sure. And don't feel bad about interrupting me whenever you want to jump in, just jump in. But yeah, Jamie Little, she's a talent. She's a talent. Like I was trying to say before, she used to work at that in the X Games and was a big part of the X Games team for a while because she was actually in the X Games, competed in the X Games, and then later moved on to commentating and being part of the X Games. So I could very well see her going to ESPN, doing something like that. Who knows? But personally, I would love for her to stay with NASCAR on Fox, doing whatever. I just would like to see her improve in the booth. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Jamie Little potentially losing races in the booth? How do you feel about Eric Brennan and Brent Stover, if you know who those two guys are? I don't know much about Brent Stover, but I think Eric Brennan has a very bright future in commentating with NASCAR. Let me know your thoughts about all of that in the comments. All right, before we move on because we do have to talk about some rule changes and go through our weekly picks plus our chase picks. I do want to play a little segment that we might not do every week. It really depends on how many small stories we end up getting throughout the week. But I thought I'd do a segment here that I call In Other News. I figured since we don't always have time for all the stories throughout the week, I would do this little segment called In Other News. So let's get it started. We have some Spire Motorsports sponsorship news as we have Motto Casino and Minor both returning to Spire Motorsports this season. We also have a tad bit more sponsorship news as National Debt Relief has actually expanded to 12 races for their primary sponsorship of Denny Hamlin in the number 11 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. And then take a look at this. This is very weird, I would say. AM Racing, the sale of AM Racing has not been finalized to Sigma Performance. And it looks like in this upcoming season, they will be working together for that transfer to happen. I don't know if it will happen during this season or next season, but Sigma is committed to going to the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, and they are committed to be continuing to work in NASCAR this season in ARCA. Well, former Glass Case of Emotion alumni, Ryan Blaney's old podcast, stand-up comic Nate Bargatze will actually be the Grand Marshal of the Daytona 500. He will be the guy screaming, "Gentlemen, start your engines." Another story that really kind of came out of nowhere right before we started the events for the Clash is that Denny Hamlin has re-injured his shoulder and does need surgery, but he has decided to push off that surgery until the end of the season because it would be a long recovery time, potentially 3 or even 4 month recovery from that. All right, so that will do it for this week's edition of In Other News. A couple other small stories that have come out today. Carson Hocevar has signed an extension, the longest contract from what I'm hearing in NASCAR. He is extended to the 2030s. We don't know exactly what year, 2030, 2031, but smart move by Spire because Hocevar has a very bright future. And another pretty cool story that we'll talk briefly about here is that we have two awesome people, two extreme sports people, two of the most Americans you might ever meet, and that being Travis Pastrana and Cleetus McFarland, aka Garrett Mitchell, racing at Daytona for Nice Motorsports. These two are going to be teammates. Like, this is the all-American team. Like, these two are going to be teammates. Cleetus McFarland and Travis Pastrana. I can't imagine the content that Cleetus McFarland is going to make. Like, I can't imagine. Tyler, I love Cleetus, but Travis Pastrana is my favorite person. Like, everybody in the world, doesn't matter, celebrity, Travis Pastrana is, I love that. That's like that's probably one of the only people I would get starstruck around. Like, I love Travis Pastrana. How do you feel about this?
I mean, you can't beat Travis. Travis is the all-around guy, man. He brings in every single sport together. Like, there's not one wheel sport that he's not like, hey, I've done that. Let's all be friends. Let's all go do that together. Like, that's the coolest part about Travis. Travis doesn't just dip his toes into something, right? Travis takes his toes and then all his friends' toes too. Like he brings everybody he knows. He's like, hey, we're
cannonballs
gonna go
in.
do this cool thing.
He cannonballs
Yeah,
in.
and he's like, we're all gonna do this cool thing. And then it's like a super cool thing. So that's the cool part about Travis being involved with anything. And then having Cleetus involved is even cooler. I mean, I love Cleet. And that man is bringing us fans from left and right of people that never even thought NASCAR was still running. So it's cool to see them get together because that right there, fan base wise, we absolutely need both of their fans back in NASCAR. Their fans used to be in NASCAR. They need to come back and play with us again. So it's cool to see. But the most important part, like you said, the content, man, those two are going to create is going to be insane. Like Travis already creates insane content. Cleet already insane. Together, chef kiss.
Oh,
And I love NASCAR is going to be in the middle of it.
honestly, the only other person that you could throw in there to make it more insane, throw Johnny Knoxville in the mix, throw Nick Knoxville in there. Those three together, like that would just be insane. And I think if I read correctly, McFarlane's actually going to be racing all the super speedway races for Nice in that truck, which is freaking cool. I'm glad to see it. I know Cleetus doesn't have a lot of experience and there's going to be people bitching online and stuff like that. I don't care. He has a racer's mindset and he gets along with the people in the garage and he's a huge promoter for the sport. He promotes the sport more than most of our drivers. So I respect the crap out of Cleetus McFarlane and Travis Pastrana. He's the extreme sports guy. Like if it goes fast, I expect Travis Pastrana to be involved in some sort of way. But Cory, how do you feel about this all-American team developing at Nice Motorsports?
Man, it's hard to top what you guys were just saying, dude. The excitement's on another level right now.
Oh
And
yeah!
I
Woo!
you're like the Kool-Aid Man's here. No, I'm excited for it. I think it'll be cool. It'll be awesome. It's a killer combo. I imagine someone that's good with like fan experience and fan engagement, like Carson Hosafar, is gonna swing by. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Like, I'm
Hosvar is
I'm
connected
excited
to
for it.
Nice
It's gonna be
too,
cool.
so.
Exactly.
Well, Hosvar, I think is actually no, he's racing for Spire, but he is connected to Nice. But he's going to be racing in that race too, actually.
Yep.
But just really cool to see Cleetus and Pastrana racing in the Truck Series at Daytona and being teammates. It's going to be cool. I can't wait to see how they do. I hope they both do fantastic. I hope one of them wins. I can't imagine the celebration if one of those two guys win the race. I can't imagine. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Cleetus McFarlane, a.k.a. Garrett Mitchell, and Travis Pastrana, Extreme Sports King, joining NASCAR for the Truck Series at Daytona? I can't wait. I cannot wait for that. I cannot wait for that. That's going to be so cool. All right, let's move on to our next kind of story. We want to kind of go through some of the rule changes and, of course, the updated playoffs, aka the return of the chase. So let me run through the rule changes here real quick. The rule changes for the 2026 NASCAR season is looking like 670 horsepower to 750 horsepower being upped 80. This is something NASCAR fans have really been wanting, and this is only at road courses and ovals shorter than a mile and a half. The minimum age for the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series has been lowered to 17. That is only for road courses and ovals shorter than a mile and a quarter. Cup drivers have now had their max risen for racing in lower series. So Cup drivers can now participate in 10 O'Reilly races and 8 Craftsman Truck Series races. And they may not participate in any chase races, but they can participate in the regular season finale. There has been some changes to the fastest lap bonus. No longer can the fastest lap bonus be eligible to someone that has gone into the garage. So if you wreck out early, you can't come back onto the track and get the fastest lap bonus point. That is no longer possible. We have the OEM provisional, the new OEM vehicles. So essentially, this is essentially for Ram. Ram could end up using this up this season. OEM vehicles can receive up to 4 additional starting grid spots for their first 3 events if they don't qualify otherwise. So, for example, if all 4 colleague trucks don't make the Daytona race on time. They will add 4 starting grid spots for those 4 trucks at Daytona and the 2 races after that. Then the next one is a waiver update. We do have some updates to the waiver. If a waiver is granted for reasons other than a NASCAR initiated and or approved absence, the driver will begin the chase with the minimum points, starting with 2,000 points for the Cup Series, 2,020 for the trucks, and then 2,030 for the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. For an example, a driver getting suspended who gets a waiver would end up getting 2,000 points. So even if you end up being the regular season champion. So that could be a big fall for somebody. And then let's go through the update to the playoffs, aka the chase is back. Still the same amount of participants. You have 16 drivers for Cup, 12 for O'Reilly, 10 for trucks. It's no longer a win and you're in system. You can no longer win a race and get in, but there has been a change to points. You now get 55 points for a race win. It was 40 points last year, so 15 extra points for winning a race. So winning still definitely matters, but it doesn't lock you in to the chase. The regular season champion gets a 25-point advantage heading into the chase on second place in points. Throughout the chase, there is no eliminations, there is no reseeding, there is no reset of points. It just is, as the chase used to be a few years ago. Not a few years ago, it was a while now, but years ago, some of you may remember. The way the points are starting in the chase are as follows. This is for the Cup chase, by the way. First in points gets 2,100. Second in points is 2,075. Third place is 2,065, and then it's 5 points lower and lower up until you get to 16th, who is at 2,000 points, or any driver that got an unapproved waiver, I would say. All right, now that we've gone through the rule changes and the chase being back, I want to send it to Tyler and Cory to see if there's any rule changes that really stand out to them out of this list. I guess we'll start with Cory on this one. Cory, is there any in particular rule changes that stand out to you?
With us going back to the chase and getting rid of the win and you're in, I like the fact that they increased how much points you get for a win.
I agree.
Like that counters it a little bit, making it also makes the win more important. So yeah, I'm happy they did that since we're going back to the chase. And one I don't like going away. I mean, I understand it, but one I don't like going away is the fastest lap point. Gave a reason for cars that were out of the race to get back on the track, but I mean, I can see it both ways. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I see where you're saying there as well, but I don't know. I'm very mixed about the fastest lap one as well, because then you have some drivers that are literally just out there to get the fastest lap, and then they come back down and park it. I don't know. I'm very mixed about it. I don't know how I necessarily feel about that one per se. But Tyler, is there any rule changes in particular that stand out to you out of the new rule changes for 2026?
Agree with you. The whole, guaranteed spot and you're in type thing is very interesting. I understand why they're doing it. You have to, because you got a new maker in there. You got to make sure they have room for improvement, things like that. But make it worth their time to be there. But still, at the same time, it's a little strange. Definitely a little strange. Drivers with the being able to go and race truck and Xfinity, I think that's going to be the biggest thing, in my opinion, that we're going to see make a difference this year.
Yeah, I would say I'm personally a big fan of the Cup drivers going down racing in the lower series. I just don't know at this point how many drivers are actually going to fill out all those races. Kyle Busch 10 years ago would have filled out all those races easily, but even Kyle Busch doesn't really race in the lower series all that much anymore. I can definitely see Ross Chastain filling out every single one of those races. Chastain seems like somebody that likes to go down into the lower divisions. But I am very interested to see how many Cup drivers actually work through all those races. I am very intrigued by that. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about the new changes to the rules for 2026? And how do you feel about the chase being reintroduced and essentially revamped from its old style, and the points, more points for a winner throughout the year? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, now that we've gone through the rule changes, I do want to go through our weekly pick rules. I'm not going to go through all the rules, but I do want to pull them up on screen because we do have some rules just so people know. These are our weekly pick rules for the season. I do want to quickly talk about that tinfoil hat bonus near the bottom of the screen because it is something new that we're doing this year that I think is kind of an interesting thing that we can do. So pretty much the tinfoil hat bonus and the way it works. One of us every 8 races. This could be done within the series of 8. And there could also be one within the crown jewels. So you essentially get 5 tinfoil hat bonuses a year. One for crown jewel events, excluding the Daytona 500, because you cannot do tinfoil hat bonus on the super speedway. So Coke 600, Southern 500, Brickyard 400, one of those races you can do a tinfoil hat bonus for, and then you can do one of those for each of the series of 8. So essentially you can, like, for example, let's say at Vegas, let's say at Las Vegas, I'm like, hey, I want to pick Carson Hocevar as my tinfoil hat bonus. And if both Tyler and Cory approve of that, I can get Carson Hocevar as that bonus and get some potential bonus points if he does well. But at the same time, if I'm like, hey, I want Carson Hocevar, and let's say Tyler says no. Let's say if Tyler's like, no, I don't want you to pick Carson Hocevar because I don't think that's a tinfoil hat take. I think he can actually win the race or have a great finish like that and deny him. But if Tyler does decide to deny me and I decide to make another pick for that tinfoil hat bonus, Tyler can no longer deny that. Tyler has to accept it and hope that Cory denies it. So, for example, if I say Carson Hocevar and he denies it, and then I come out with like, you know what, I'm going to pick William Byron as my tinfoil hat bonus. Like, for example, Tyler can't deny that, even though it's even though it's clearly a favorite. He would have to count on Cory to deny it at that point. So just a little cool bonus thing, I would say. I'm going to try to remind Cory and Tyler of this throughout the year because it is kind of a weird thing that I personally decided. I know this is my idea. I personally decided to introduce it, but it makes it kind of cool. You can pick an underdog and get some bonus points. So you get 5 tinfoil hat bonuses a year, one per every 8 race series, and then one for the crown jewel. And other than that, it's pretty much all the same things as last year. A couple of bonuses added in before the chase starts. But other than that, pretty much all the same things that we ended up having last year. So just quickly wanted to go through some of those rules. And we did have our first week of weekly picks for Bowman Gray Stadium, the Clash. And honestly, it looked like Cory was going to win because Blaney was struggling and Hamlin was getting involved in every accident. It looked like Cory was going to end up winning week 1. Of course, he was last season champion for weekly picks, but it ended up not turning out like that. Tyler ended up getting the weekly win with a 3rd place finish from Ryan Blaney, so he has 5 points. I ended up getting a top 5 finish plus a 2nd place finish in the weekly standings, if you will, with a 5th place finish from Denny Hamlin. So I have 3 points. And then Cory, who finished last out of us 3 and didn't get a top 5 or a top 10, only got 1 single point for Bowman Gray Stadium. And then we'll be heading on to the Daytona 500. And the Daytona 500, and there's one thing that is included in the rules that I didn't just mention right there, but they already know it, is that the crown jewels and special events don't count towards the 8-pick series. So you can pick whoever you want in a crown jewel event or an exhibition race, and it doesn't affect your 8-pick series. So you can pick, for example, if Cory wanted to, he could have picked Kyle Larson for Bowman Gray, could have picked Kyle Larson for the 500, and could have picked Kyle Larson for Atlanta if he wanted to. It wouldn't have any effect on that. So those are the updates on our weekly picks, and it should be an exciting year for weekly picks. As long as Cory doesn't pick Shane Van Gisbergen every single time he wins, I think it should be a good year. Should be a good year. All right, so let's go through our little prediction part of the show because we do have our predictions for who is going to make the chase. And some of you may notice there is a bonus point, a couple of bonus points actually, if we get our preseason championship pick correct. That will come to the weekly picks. So we will be making our chase picks, and I'm going to give each of these guys the floor on their chase picks. And we'll start with Cory on his chase picks that he has. If you see on your screen, if you're watching you can see his chase picks, but Cory has his chase picks as Chastain, Larson, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Hamlin, Blaney, Buescher, Briscoe, Seabell, Logano, Bubba, William Byron, Reddick, Bowman, Ty Gibbs, and Connor Zilisch. And then Cory has Kyle Larson getting his third championship and going back-to-back in Cup championships. Cory, give me your thoughts on your chase 16 and how you ended up coming up with it.
I think mine's probably the least surprising of our three, in my opinion. I think honestly the only two surprises that you could probably debate is Ty Gibbs making it and Connor Zilisch. I think me and Tyler believe in Zilisch more than the average fan because he's proven it.
For sure.
And I mean, honestly, even yesterday, he looked the part. It didn't look like his first race. So, but I think Zilisch makes it. And then I think Ty Gibbs is another one that people will debate, but he's in the best equipment. He doesn't finish terrible. I mean, in another year under the belt in Cup, I think it's a kind of a no-brainer. It's going to be hard for him not to be top 16. I think the debatable one, the one that I was considering, is Kyle Busch, just because how inconsistent RCR is.
Yeah.
I wanted to put Hocevar in there. I wanted to squeeze Hocevar in there, but I think the 16th in final position is going to come down to Preece, Busch, and Hocevar, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then Kyle Larson's going to be back to back. Let's just
all right. Let me cut him
this
off now.
championship format favors him, so it's just going to happen. And Homestead, it's going to be Kyle.
Yeah. Homestead is his racetrack. That's his place. And I'll get to my chase 16 in a second. But I was debating on Hocevar as well. The only reason I didn't put him in there because I just think he's going to have too many DNFs. I just think he's going to wreck too many times and not being able to make up for it. We'll have to see. But somebody that did actually have Carson Hocevar in his chase 16 was Tyler. Let me pull up Tyler's chase 16 right here. If you can see on the screen, you can see his chase 16, but obviously if you're listening on Spotify, Tyler's sweet 16 would be Ross Chastain, Kyle Larson, Brad Kay, Rowdy, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Blaney, Briscoe, Seabell, Josh Berry, Logano, Bubba, William Byron, Carson Hocevar, Connor Zilisch, and Shane Van Gisbergen. And Tyler also has Denny Hamlin, Dennis the Menace, winning his first Cup Series championship. Tyler, give me your thoughts on how you ended up coming up with this.
So mine is very based on not only consistency, right? Because that's what the Cup's going to be about, but drivers that have done this, right? So that's why you have people like Kyle Busch. My list, when I originally did it, was in what I actually think people are going to finish in. So I have people like Carson, Kyle, Josh. I mean, Kyle Busch knows how to be consistent. That man knows where to get points. He knows how to do this. He's been in this chase before. He knows exactly what he's doing. So there's a high chance he's making the top 16. He may not make it far in the top 16. He may be 16th, but he's going to make it in there. There's no way that man's going to be denied. Carson, I think, learns finally to relax, to chill. I think he finally learns how important these races are, and I think he does it quickly. I think the man's smarter than everybody gives him credit for, and especially when it comes to racing. So I think he'll figure it out fast. Josh, I think, is another one that we see this year just get much, much better. Absolutely much better. I think his Vegas win gave him that confidence he needed, that he actually can do this. And from there, he's going to be, I wouldn't say unstoppable, but he's going to be much better than he's ever been behind the wheel. And then everybody else in that list besides Connor Zilisch is really just guaranteed on that list. They're going to get some wins. They're going to get some top 10s. They're going to get some top 5s without a doubt. And I think you and I, along with Cory over there, know that Connor's going to be consistent. At the very, very least, Connor's going to be consistent.
I'm surprised you don't have Tyler Reddick in there, dude. Didn't he win like the regular season championship 2 years ago?
I was about to bring that up to him. Beat me to it. Tyler, explain yourself.
The man fell off. I don't know what it is, but he's not good at 2311. I don't know what's happening anymore. Like he's not who he was. Like this is not. I don't know if the shoe game is all he cares about now, and he's not worried about sim time or what the hell. But like the guy is not who he used to be behind the wheel anymore. I don't know if he lost his confidence. I don't know what it is, but personally, I don't see it anymore.
Yeah, I brought this up to you earlier, Tyler. I was like, do you just forget about Reddick, or do you actually think he's not going to make the playoffs? He's like, yeah, I don't think he's going to make the playoffs. I'm like, oh, that's a bold take. And I can see where he's coming from. I can definitely see where Tyler's coming from, because Reddick, I would say, wasn't the best driver at 2311. I'd say Bubba Wallace was the best driver at 2311. And another pretty interesting thing, you have all 3 Trackhouse cars in your chase. That's pretty cool, seeing all the Trackhouse cars in there. All right, but go, Tyler.
I think with Trackhouse's revamp, because they revamped everything. Everything. You got new everything over there.
That's true.
I think with their revamp, I think they're taking it extremely serious. I think it's not wishy-washy anymore. They spent the money for the guys that they know what they're doing. They know how to make these cars go fast, and they're willing to do that now. I mean, it was a test run before, right? Time to clear house. Time to get rid of all those guys that we can make this team work. Like, no, now this is for real. We're doing this for real now, and they're going to put the money into it. And I honestly, I think everybody's going to be surprised with the speed that comes out of Trackhouse this year.
Yeah, I think Trackhouse could potentially go back to what they were a couple of years ago when Chastain first joined. When Chastain first joined, all of a sudden they were just like, oh my gosh, where did all this speed come from? It wasn't just Chastain either. It was Suarez. Suarez was very competitive too at that time. So maybe Trackhouse can be one of the most competitive teams. One thing I did find interesting, all 3 of us believe in the Rook. All 3 of us have Zilich making the chase. I found that very interesting. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think is going to make who do you think is going to make the chase, and who do you think is going to be the Cup champion? Well, actually, no. Let me go through mine. I didn't even go through mine yet. I got so caught up in yours. I didn't even go through mine yet. Let me go through mine. I got so caught up in y'all's. Fuck y'all. It's my turn. All right. This is my Chase 16. If you see it on the screen, I will read it aloud. Ross Chastain, Larson, Rowdy, Chase Elliott, Hamlin, Blaney, Busher, Briscoe, Seabell, Joey Logano, Bubba, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, Bowman the Showman, Ryan Preece, and Connor Zilich. And then my champion is Dennis the Menace, Denny Hamlin. This was going to be a bold take for me. This was originally going to be a bold take for me because I don't think a lot of people have Ryan Preece penned to win a race. I don't think a lot of people have Ryan Preece penned to make the playoffs, but I do. I believe in Ryan Preece, and I was really happy to see him win that Clash because I was just like, I knew he could do it. I knew he could do it, and he did it. I'm very happy for him, and I do think he's going to make the playoffs. I also think his teammate Busher is going to make the playoffs. Brad K, I don't see Brad K doing it. I really don't. I'm hoping I'm wrong because I'm a big fan of Brad K, and I put Rowdy in there because, first of all, Rowdy's my guy. And also I can see him making it, and I don't know if I have the heart to put Rowdy outside of the playoffs. If I had the heart, maybe I would have switched out Rowdy and Hocevar. The only reason I don't have Hocevar in the playoffs is because I just think Hocevar is going to get too many DNFs. I just think he's going to get too many DNFs, and it's going to end up affecting him once the playoffs come around. Two people actually that I would look at as potential dark horses to make the playoffs are both of his Spire teammates, though. Michael McDowell. Michael McDowell stays out of trouble. He can get a win or two on a road course. Michael McDowell. And then Daniel Suarez. I don't care what anybody says. Daniel Suarez is a good driver.
I say McDowell.
Fuck you.
Daniel's getting in, but McDowell ain't winning no fucking road course. Excuse my language, but McDowell ain't winning nothing anymore. His time is over. Like, he had a chance, maybe before Shane, and then before Connor, and
That's
before,
true.
yeah. The list is way too long now. Sorry, buddy, but like, it's over for him.
It's over.
He's gonna take his 5th place and be happy though. I'm proud of him. That 5th place finish is gonna feel so good for him at those road courses.
His spot in the sun is over, is what Tyler's saying. Michael McDowell.
You know what's
What's up?
you know what's surprising looking at your list compared to mine is that we have 15 of the
Yep.
16 same drivers.
I noticed that. The only difference is you got Gibbs and I got Preece. That's the only difference.
And I just think Gibbs it's gonna just be he's in better equipment and now and then over the offseason they changed a lot to invest in him more.
Ty Gibbs is someone I didn't mention, but now that you brought him back up, Ty Gibbs, I feel like we're either going to get one or two versions of Ty Gibbs this year. I feel like we're either going to get the breakout Ty Gibbs, where he's going to go out there and win 2, 3, 4, 5 races, or he's going to be running 20th every week. I'm not sure which one we're going to get. I don't think we're going to get something in the middle. I don't think Ty Gibbs is just going to be okay. I think Ty Gibbs is going to have he's either going to have a similar year to what Chase Briscoe had last season,
Exactly what I was about to say.
or he's going to be doing what we've seen from him over the last couple of years. And do you think he's going to have a breakout year, Cory, or no?
I think it's pointing towards that, yeah, because I think he got consistent near the end of the year. Like, I mean, not consistently in the top 5 like his teammates, but 12th, 11th, like in that area. So it's just finishing there. And I don't think he has a problem with DNFs. I think he had a lot of I think Gibbs had problems with like failures, and a lot of it was Gibbs's car. But I think he'll be more consistent, to be honest. I think he has the equipment to do so. He's set up for success.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, he definitely does have the equipment. And I think that leads us directly into making a couple of bold predictions, because I asked Cory and Tyler to just think of maybe a couple of bold predictions they may have for the season. I'll personally start us off. I think we're going to get a couple of first-time winners throughout the year. I think Zilich is going to get multiple victories. I think Ryan Preece is going to win a points race this year. I think Carson Hocevar gets his first win. I don't know if I think Ty Gibbs will actually get his first win too. I think Ty Gibbs will somehow squeeze a win in there. So I think we're going to have a bunch of first-time winners this year, and I think Zilich is going to win multiple races. I don't think Zilich is just going to win one. I think Zilich is going to win 2 or 3 races this year, and I could very much see him winning one of those races on an oval too. I would not be surprised at all. And another bold prediction as well. I think Shane, it's not really a bold prediction, but I think Shane's going to continue to improve on the ovals. I think he's just going to continue to get better and better. Tyler, do you have any certain bold predictions that you have for the season?
I don't think Cory is gonna like this very much.
Oh, shit.
But my bold prediction is that Mr. Larson struggles this year, and struggles hard because these kids are coming in hot, and he has not been the greatest in the last season. He got lucky in a lot of things, so I don't know how the season's gonna look for Mr. Larson, but I don't think it's gonna look very great.
Yeah,
Hey, I can see it going that way, to be honest. I don't have any argument here. I just think when it comes to consistency over the total of a year, it's always Byron and Larson, Reddick and Larson. Like, consistency, like, he'll have a lot of DNFs out of nowhere that are his fault and get collected incidents at every single super speedway race. But it's just
That matters now.
yep.
yeah, I know, but I mean I think even with the regular season standings, it's always him in second. So that's the only. I agree with your point. I just think in totality of the year, he's too consistent to not be in contention.
I could definitely. That's not what I would predict. I personally think once the regular season ends, that Larson will probably be in the top 5 in points. But I can 100% see what Tyler's saying. I can definitely see that happening for sure, because ever since the Indianapolis 500 last season, Larson didn't look like himself. Wasn't he was competitive, but he wasn't Larson. Like, you expect Larson to go out there and dominate races and kick all sorts of ass, and I didn't see that once throughout the rest of the year after Indianapolis. I didn't see it. I think he had a win or two after that, but he didn't have any dominating sort of performances. So I can definitely see it. Corey, what's up?
My only argument to your guys' argument is that even if it was the chase last year, they said he would have won.
Mm-hmm.
If they did the
That's
same
not what we're
format,
saying,
he
though.
would have won.
That's not what we're saying, though.
No, I know. I get it. I'm just saying his slow end of the year last year still would have won him a championship.
for sure.
So even with you guys saying he looked worse was still enough.
But I think what we're saying is last year he had a super hot start and he was kicking all sorts of ass, but then he fell off. I think what we're saying is he's going to be consistent all year, but it's not going to be the Larson that we expect. I personally agree with you, Corey. I think Larson's still going to be Larson. I think he's going to figure it out and he's going to kick all sorts of ass like he usually does. But I can definitely see what Tyler's saying as a potential. I can definitely see that happening. It's definitely a possibility. But he's had the whole off season to recuperate. He's won a championship. He looked really strong at the Clash. So I personally think he's going to be competing for that regular season championship.
And then I only have one bold prediction.
What is that?
And I don't know if it's bold to you. I just think the second that we change the playoff format, we're going to have like 15 or 16 winners this year. I think we're going to have like 15 or more winners this year. Like you said, I think Gibbs gets his first win. I think Preece gets a win. I think Busher, who didn't get a win last year, gets a win.
Yeah.
I think Reddick, who didn't get a win last year, gets a win. I think Kyle Busch is fighting to get a win this year.
Fighting. He didn't say win.
I think
he didn't say get a win. He gave everybody else a win. He said fighting for Kyle Busch. That's fucked up.
And then Zilich. I think Zilich gets a win. I think Zilich might get two.
Yeah, I think he will.
And if you add all of that with how many winners we had last year, like, it's not really I'm making it not sound like a bold prediction, to be honest, but that's my bold prediction.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think you.
What's up?
I don't think you get as many because of the fact that nobody's gonna really do crazy shit anymore. Like you're not gonna have somebody that's like, oh, I win this race and I'm getting into playoffs. Like, that's not a thing. Like, there's no risk it for the biscuit anymore that way. So personally, I think it's the other way around. I think you see a lot more consistency with people that are actually great drivers winning, and less of this. That guy won that one random race, like, personally, but that's my opinion.
I think I think that Corey's take actually is a bold take, but not from what you're saying, Tyler. The reason I think it's a bold take, and we saw it last year kind of develop, that all the really good teams have figured out this car at this point. So we're getting a lot of these smaller teams aren't winning as much. Like last year, it was either Gibbs, Hendrick, Penske, Gibbs, Hendrick, Penske, Gibbs, Hendrick. Like, that's how it was most of last year. We didn't really see a lot of these surprise winners as we've seen in the past. We definitely still saw a couple. Like, it's always like Josh Berry, for example, but even him is technically Penske, you know? So I think that's why I would say it's a bold take, but it's a good bold take to have, because with the way everything is with NASCAR right now, and then the points you're kind of making as well, I could definitely see like some drivers aren't going to push as hard to get that win. They're going to be like, I'm just going to stay in second place, take my points, and not risk wrecking both of us to get a win when I'm not even locking myself into the playoffs with that win.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think the winning you're in changes much. A win is a win to everybody.
For sure.
Like, one singular win in your career is the highlight of your career.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna try to win it, not just to get in the playoffs. So I don't think changing the format changes the way people think about winning a race. I think it does for maybe like Michael McDowell, who throws a Hail Mary anytime he's in the top 3. But like, I don't think it changes much. I think a lot of wins, like Austin Dillon won, and it wasn't like a surprise. He was up there the entire race.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I think it's just the product of this car, and I just think there's just gonna be more winners. That's just my bold prediction. I think I like it. I think it's a bold prediction. I'm excited for it.
Well, that's why it is a bold prediction. Me and Tyler aren't supposed to agree with your prediction. That's what kind of makes it a bold prediction, you know? Even if I agree with the Zilich one that you had, because I personally think Zilich is going to get multiple victories too. I think Zilich is going to get multiple victories. I think he's going to have a fantastic year. I think Trackhouse overall is going to have a fantastic year. So, but those are a couple of our bold predictions that we have for the 2026 season. Let us know in the comments, what do you think about our bold predictions? And is there a couple of bold predictions that you have for yourself? Maybe you have Cody Ware winning a race. I would really question your IQ, but you could do that if you wanted to. But yeah, that will do it for this week of Hit the Pace Car, this week's edition of Hit the Pace Car. We will be doing a show next week on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, where we will be previewing the Daytona 500 and going over any potential stories we have between now and Tuesday. Other than that, it's going to be pretty much just talking about the Daytona 500, making our Daytona 500 picks. So tune in for that next week. Tyler, good luck this weekend, man. Good luck. Even though I want you to cry your eyes out, good luck.
Ooh.
I'm gonna cry either way. I'm going to cry. Don't
That's
worry.
true.
There will be tears.
That's true. I shouldn't have said that.
But hopefully they're the best tears in the whole world. And it's literally Drake May, proving to the world why he is the greatest of all time and why Josh Allen could never.
Damn, that's crazy.
There's always next year.
Corey, what do you got? What do you have to say? This.
I gotta Hey, there is next year, but I gotta finish this year first. Let me get to the Super Bowl. Once we're done with this, then we'll see you guys next year. How about that?
There you go.
See, he said, "See you guys, the Cardinals." No, I'm kidding. But
That's cute.
I'll just keep watching Suns basketball. I'm fine with that.
The Wizards have a basketball team. Corey, did you see that?
Yeah, you guys went crazy. I think you guys were like the most active team.
The Wizards have a basketball team, and I'm excited about it. So
Not this year, next year though.
Maybe we might not even have a team next year because who knows? We might not get either. Of those. Both of those guys might not resign. We might lose both of them, to be honest. But I'm hoping for fingers crossed. So I'm gonna go check up on the Wizards roster, and for next week, see you at Hit the Pace Car next week. We'll be talking about Daytona. For Tyler and Corey, I'm Trackside Larry saying peace.